Welcome to the webinar, everybody. My name is Mark Shawson, the Pattern Trader. I'll be starting in just a moment. So I am simulcasting this on YouTube. If you're wondering if it's recorded, it will also be simulcast on YouTube. So hey, everybody, welcome again. Welcome to this last edition, this last of a four-part series where I go inside the market. I'll be talking about, current things, and we'll go into it in just a moment. So let me set up everything and we can get going. So yeah, I think I've remembered to do everything. So I'll give this another minute, get everybody situated, and then John, thanks for confirming that. All right, so why don't we get cracking? So once again, welcome to this live edition, the last of my four-part execution webinar series where I show you how, to carve out a piece of monster moves in the market, not incremental pips, not a dollar or two. I'm looking for 10, 15, 20% explosive moves in any and every market I look at. So you can apply my trading methodology, and I have done so, to stocks, bonds, Forex, commodities, gold, you name it. Anything that has a price and in an open, a high, low close, you can start making sense of, what's going on. And, what I try and do is understand where the next trajectory is going to be. Where can I catch the next bus that's going to, take me for, a good long ride? And how do I also establish my risk in doing so? So, this week I've talked about a bunch of trades that I've been looking at. You can see that I don't just, I'm just not an educator. This is not just theory. I eat my own cooking. So whatever I'm telling you about, whatever I'm showing you, I promise you I am doing live, in my own account. So, this week I talked about going long WRK, and you can see I'm long a few shares there. I'm long Lyft. I spoke yesterday about the stock QuantumScape. I put up the chart and I said, right at this point that, I saw very little risk, going short, that I saw only, almost no way that this thing could go higher. And you could see this thing dropped about 14% today. Now, it's a good news and bad news story for me. It's kind of a funny story, but you can see that I was long these 41 series put, and also I was long the 40. Now, I had over 175 of these. I took some profits during the day because they expire tomorrow. You can see these are the April 16th put series on QuantumScape. I had 175. I had 100 of these and 75 of these. And you can see I paired my position, took some profit, but these are trading 550% higher than where I bought them. So I paid about $1 for these, and you can see they're trading at about 573. And then I was also short Zoom stock, and I told you into a higher opening, it opened at about 337. I said, I'm just going to short into that higher opening. And you can see, fell to about 329. I put about $1.6 million into that bet because I just thought that there was very little risk in doing so. And I was up 20 grand. So all told, I made over $100,000 today, over 150, because this is just in one account. I'll show you my other trades in a moment. Well, I'll just basically, so this was after I got off the webinar. I do a daily email for those on my elite pattern trader list. You can see that this was yesterday, 7 o'clock, right after the webinar, where I sent out this email on QuantumScape to sell short based on the head and shoulders, the descending triangle. And I said penetration below, yesterday's low will likely send prices lower. So now, again, this is kind of comical because I did this presentation for you, then I sent out my email, And then, just to decompress, I stuck on this show in the United States called Mad Money with this guy, Jim Cramer. He's a former Goldman Sachs guy, but he thinks through a fundamental lens. He thinks, well, if I can look at the price forecasts and if I look at the revenues and if I can look at the metrics, I can deduce, the value of a stock. So he was going through all of these SPACs. These are companies that come public through a reverse merger with what's called a special purpose acquisition company. Now, QuantumScape is one of those. Now, all of these SPACs have turned out to be frauds. They all, because they come public through a different way than going through the traditional IPO way where the SEC has to weigh in, you have to have a due diligence process. These SPACs don't go through that. And they've all been a bunch of frauds. And I think this one is also, even though Bill Gates invested in this. So Bill Gates invested in this thing. So you got Bill Gates there and so I get off the webinar after spending a half an hour telling you guys, I just can't see this thing going higher. So then I watch Cramer and he says like all of the SPACs are garbage except for QuantumScape. I couldn't believe it. As I hung up with you guys, he's saying exactly the opposite of what I was saying to you guys. And so QuantumScape was trading about $40.85 on the close yesterday. And based on what Cramer was saying, it was trading about 90 cents higher in the aftermarket. So I had these options that, are going to go off the board and expire tomorrow. And if they had stayed up 90 cents, they would have expired worthless on me. And so, but on the other hand, I'm saying to myself, to me, this is such an opportunity because this is what I do. I'll sell short, into an opening, if it doesn't make sense to me. And so Cramer said something or whatever, and the stock's trading in the aftermarket. So I was telling you yesterday, in order to go short, you have to borrow the stock and it has to be on your broker's, your broker has to have the stock in inventory. Otherwise they have to go get it from the clearinghouse. So I'm just going to cut. So I call my broker and I'm not kidding you at 8:30 in the morning, 1 hour before the market opens, and QuantumScape is trading at about 41.50. It's up about 70 cents in the aftermarket. And I was going to sell 50,000 shares into that. And so I call up my broker and I said, look, man, it's not on your easy to borrow list. Can you get it for me? Put me on hold. They go through whatever their machinations are. He comes back and he goes, okay, you're good to go. And I'm about to, hit the sell short button at 41.50. And then I see this thing print at 37, $5 lower. I mean, in the space of that conversation, it cost me about $250,000. So I made about $125,000 today, but I wanted to be short the stock because I think this thing's going to go a lot lower. And so this is what came out. I'm saying literally 30 seconds before I'm putting in my order, you can see that QuantumScape, goes down 5% on the pre-market because of a report by this Scorpion Capital. So people always ask me, do you trade the news? And, I say no. And to me, the news is only going to be a catalyst to put this thing in the direction that it was already pointed. So for the last 8 months, this stock, QuantumScape, has been building a huge bear price pattern. The whole history has been, a distribution, people getting out and the retail people, the suckers getting in, and it's just going to collapse. And I said that to you yesterday. So, there's going to be a lot of people, on these things. They call me a scammer and they call me all these different names. But, I show you what I'm doing in real time. I told you yesterday at 5 p.m. that this was a go to the bank bet. And then this morning, before the market, in the pre-market session, they released this report. So the stock just opens down, 10%. And you can see validation from Bill Gates, who's a minor, investor, on and on. And so they give a whole in-depth report on why this company's garbage. And so I don't need to know about this report. I already know it's garbage. The price is telling me it's garbage. And so this is, the analysis that I send out. So again, not to kind of, hype myself, but this is the validity of getting these emails. Right or wrong, you get to start seeing, patterns in the market, what works, what doesn't. And so this was, on, my email last night to our members. And so here were, my trades. So I started buying these QuantumScape puts on the 13th, which was what, 3 days ago. I bought the 40 puts for 80 cents. And then the stock actually moved higher after I did that, which meant that I was really losing money on these puts. But I thought, this thing is, still such a, a short, that I then added the $41 puts at $1. So you can see I paid 80 cents and $1 respectively. And you can see that the 41s went to 550, a 550% return. And the 40s went to 440. Now you can see I bought 175. It actually shows 174. For some reason, I must have entered something and I only bought one. And then I just went in and added another 74 to make 75 there. And then I had 100 of these. So 175 times $1 is about approximately a $17,000 bet. But if Kramer was right and the stock stayed where it was, at the pre-opening today, that 17,000 would have gone bye-bye. So it's a very, expensive kind of, proposition. So you can see I had 175 of these. I pared it down to about half. So you can see this was about a $60,000 gain on the day in this account. And then I'm up $54,000 in another account where I also bought 100 of the 41 series at just about $1. And you can see they're trading at about 550. And so made a 550% return between yesterday and today. So, this is if I see certain things in the market, I'll also leverage. But I'm kind of pissed that I don't own the stock because, these options will go off the board. I'll make a nice chunk of change, but I wanted to have the stock. Which, I would hold till this thing goes to $15 because I think, there's nothing to hold this thing up. This thing is just going to go straight down. As I said yesterday, there's just no support here. And so you can see this is what we were looking at yesterday, and this is where we are. And, as I said yesterday, once we kind of clear under this ledge, there's just air under here. There is just literally nothing to support this thing from going straight down. So, we may get a kind of test of this neckline. I hope we do, because that's when I'll sell more. I'm going to look for another, another place to sell this thing. So I'll wait for a consolidation. I'll wait for something, but, this thing is, I think, got a lot of room left on the downside. And so really what I'm showing you this is not to brag. I'm just saying there is an ocean of money out there, and there's a way to do things to go and capture it. And, I've kind of built, a little mousetrap where I understand, price pattern, price action, trade execution. And, I do this all the time. I know it seems incredible. People can call me a fraud and say, well, this is just a screenshot. People always say, well, you don't show your own account. Well, this is a screenshot of my own account. Obviously, I'm not going to show you my account number, or, I don't even want to declare my broker, because I don't have a broker relationship that endorses me. I don't endorse the broker. I'm an educator. I'm not a money manager. So I'm not SEC licensed. I don't want any problem with any regulatory bodies. So everyone says, well, I want to see a real account. This is my real account. And believe me, I don't have a team that goes and, makes these spreadsheets with all of these names in it and invents this stuff. This is an extraction of my account at some point today. And I just wanted to show you that when you see something, they translate to certain moves, and you can take a big chunk out of, these kind of moves. So as you can see, I also, I guess I put that away. I also own Lyft, and I ended up buying the Lyft calls. I don't know where that is. So I bought a whole bunch of calls on Lyft today also. You can see here they are. I bought 250 of the $66 calls in Lyft expiring the end of next week. So that gives me, another week or so. So the stock was trading around 64 and a half. This has to go to about 67 for me to break even. And so, I invested, $25,000. And, if this doesn't go to 67 by next week, I'm going to lose all of that. So that is, the money you put in the middle is the money that you forfeit. But you can see that if you're right, you can make 500% on your money. And so even if some of these don't work out, the ones that do more than pay for the ones that don't. And that's really what trading's about. It's not that you're not going to lose. It's just making your winners a lot bigger than your losers. So this week, I lost 0.5% on Euro New Zealand dollar. I lost like 20 grand on that bet. But, I've made like 150,000 on other bets. And so, one doesn't work, but, others do. And I'm only looking for a few things to make me a lot of money, not a lot of things to be in and out of all day long. So that's kind of the differentiation here. So, I'll talk about Lyft, and then really what I want to do is talk about you guys, see what knowledge you've extracted this week. And I would like you guys to suggest to me what trades you're looking at and why. Not that something's a good buy or what do you think of this? I want you to show me something or, say something that you're looking at and then give me a reason, why you're looking at it, based on, this kind of analysis. So let me go to Lyft. So I showed you all during the week why I like Lyft. It's got a long-term weekly double bottom that we really can't see here. This was one of the bottoms down here. There was another one here, and this was just a huge W bottom. So market came down, went up, crashed, and then we had this huge double bottom. And so with the word bottom in it, it tells me that this thing is going to go higher, probably for a long time. And so, just because we see, prices, careening down here, I'm not going to get scared. In fact, I saw this as a huge buying opportunity and took it for a, huge ride and made hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on that one. And then 2 days ago, I saw this key reversal here right at this low where you made a new low, close on the high, and this is pointing in the direction it wants to go. So based on, this kind of double bottom and this coil. So you can see today we have an inside day bar. And what I mean by an inside day bar is that the range today from high to low literally sits within the range of yesterday. So what these coil bars mean is that they're just gathering more energy. They're kind of just collecting energy, building energy, and the more it kind of builds energy, when it releases, it's going to come out with a bang. And so that's what I think Lyft is going to do. And so based on the current price action, I put a leverage bet. I own a lot of shares in various accounts in Lyft. But then, I bought these call options because I think you're going to explode. So, I bought the $66 call options. So now Lyft has to get about there and then also get about here, $67, because you have to add the premium that I paid for the call option. So that's my break even right around the high level. And so I've got to make a bet that you're going to go and make new highs by next week, or I'm going to lose all of that 25 grand. And actually I bought these calls across many accounts and, got much more than $25,000 invested. Now, it could be a question of timing because I think this company is going to announce somewhere around May 12th, their earnings. And that's really where, I want to put my bets on. You still have a lot of history here to get through. It could be a bumpy ride. And when you buy call options, you want something to go right now. So I need this thing to start clearing this underbrush pretty quickly. But I've got a week. I like my bet. And even if, I get a bit of a move, I'm going to give those options a scare. I could make, 50% of my money, take some off, and, manage it from there. But I do think that, it's not a bad bet. But if you own the stock and you have patience, this is going to go and make new highs. So, instead of me doing the talking now, I'd like to kind of see, let me just take some of this off, what you guys have taken away from these sessions. And so Mark Smith on the internet says, hey, Mark, where do I start with you to open an account? So Mark, again, I'm an educator. I don't accept money. I'm not a money manager. I'm not a signal provider. You can sign up to our various programs, which are on the internet. If you want to sign up to the elite program, I guess I'll put a link, in a moment. So I kind of give you the tools, and then it's up to you how you take this information. So Jean-Louis says, I learned, but not well enough to assess the direction. Sorry, these comments come in and how to buy, sell, delimiting my risk. I now have to test all through paper trading, then go into the live market. That's fair. So Sven says, I'm looking at the Rolls-Royce company of Germany based on an inverted head and shoulders. So, I also like, love hearing from you guys because I get new ideas also. I'm always looking for chart patterns, looking for great opportunities on a risk reward. So this is Rolls-Royce. I might not be able to get, if it's a German company, it may have a different symbol. So I'm not able to access that. So I'm sorry about that. I just, if there's another symbol. So let me just go through. So TH says, I was looking at BVXV. They both developed a head and shoulder pattern on the edge of it. Would you agree to short these? BVXV. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah, that's going to go lower, but I don't even know if you can short penny stocks. But yeah, that's going to go lower. But the thing about, buying, I mean, this thing looks like it's going to go to zero. So you have about $3 of upside and you have an unlimited risk. So this was where GameStop was trading about 3 months ago at $3, and then it went to 500. So you have about $3 of upside and unlimited risk. So, this is not something that I would look to do. Yes, it looks like it's going to go off the boards, but it could take weeks and months while you're tying your money up. So, it's interesting, but I'm not going to look at, I want to look at a $200 stock or a $300 stock, not a dollar stock. So your whole entire upside is $1 and your downside is unlimited. So that's not really a great risk reward. So TH, there's a whole universe. Look at, $50 stocks or $100. QuantumScape was $42. If QuantumScape, collapses from $42 to 15, that's a decent move. From 1 to 0 is not something that I'm gonna, check out. So, so I'm kind of looking. So Wayne says RAD and NNDM look like great risk reward. So Wayne, you have to tell me what you're looking at, long or short, what kind of pattern it is. Is it a trend? So I want to know what your justification is for what you're looking at. So David says, Mark's book is good. It's a must-have for studying the patterns so you can absorb the teaching. David, thanks for that endorsement. So again, I want you guys, so George says PLTR. I don't want you to just put a symbol. I want you to say, I'm looking to buy it or I'm looking to sell it because it's, it's in this trend or it has this pattern. So Ayuk says QuantumScape is not found in the EU stock market. Sometimes, yeah, I'm trading American stocks. So, if you go through Interactive Brokers or some broker that gives you access to American stocks, that's what I'm looking at. So come on, guys. Majid says, I'm looking to sell Euro US dollar because in my mind, the trend is down. Okay. That's really not what I'm looking for. You have to kind of come to me with a little bit more of a rationale. And so, yes, the long-term trend of the euro has been down, but trends do end. And, let me put up the monthly. So yes, the trend has been down in the euro, but trends do end. And when they end, they put on a pattern that's recognizable to recognize the change in trend. So QuantumScape was going up from its IPO from 0 to whatever, 150. And then it put on a pattern that indicated that it was going to reverse. So yes, we don't really see, the history before this, but, leading up to this, the euro was in a big uptrend. And for the last, decade or so, it has been in this long-term downtrend. It's kind of been in this descending pattern. This looks just like what we looked at in the dollar yen. But can you see when it came through the descending pattern, kind of instead of doing this, it's kind of doing that. So it looks like this was a trap under this pattern. So if you chase these lows, this was a bear trap. And now you've got what I call an even atom double bottom happening here. An eve is that you have multiple prongs at one low, and then an atom is a single one. So you kind of have this double bottom looking thing. And if you come above this neckline around 125, then that's what you could be looking at. So I think the US dollar is going to be in a long-term downtrend. And so, again, whoever said that, thought the euro is going down. Let me just see. Majid. So you may have looking at a short-term chart where you see this, but to me, you have to put everything in perspective, a global perspective of what's going on. And so this is, this can bang around here for a while and do, one of two things. So I do think that eventually it will go higher. So even the short term, you can see that there was support here. And I said to our members, look, I thought there, based on the dailies, that there was some, resistance here. There was a double top. Let's get short here at 119.37. I said my objective was 116, which was around these lows. And we came right in this area, a hair under 117. And I said, let's just close the trade. So we took out a couple hundred pips on the downside. And now, frankly, I think it's going to go higher. I'm just not quite sure how this is going to develop. Because like I said, it's, kind of come down. I don't see it kind of going straight up. But I think that this is the start of this thing kind of, going in fits and starts higher again. So, here's even the weekly. So, Majid, you're right. The short-term trend, you saw and this is why I say you can't look at all of these patterns and price action in a vacuum. You have to understand it within a global context because, yes, right here, there was a double top. And yes, there was these key reversals. Made a new high, closed on the low, made a new high, closed on the low. But then this gave me an opportunity for what I call a counter trend trade, where I think the main trade now based on that monthly and weekly chart is that this thing's going to go higher, which doesn't mean that, it's going to go higher all at once. And there are places where you can carve out, a counter trend move where I could see based on these reversals, and there's resistance area. You can see that this just hit this resistance area. It was a natural place on the weekly and monthly thing for it to, kind of run into some turbulence. And so, yes, I thought I would get knocked back from here, but the prize is that way. So you have to understand, the both. So to me, yes, you see patterns and price action all the time. And now we have to figure out which is real. And to me, even looking at this weekly chart, this is the pattern. It's a inverted head and shoulders price pattern, an upside down man or woman's left shoulder. This is the peak, and it looks like an upside down head and shoulders price pattern. So this is the pattern. This is the governing price pattern. So if something, bottoms and makes a reversal, it's not going to go here and then there. By definition, an inverted head and shoulders is a bottoming price pattern. This thing has bottomed here. You will not see 107 print on this thing. Not for decades, in my opinion. And so this just pulled back, and I was looking for a pullback here, into this area. I thought it might get down to 116, 115. It got to just a hair into 117. And now this is the support, and now it's going to go back in the direction that it's indicated by the governing price pattern. So now I don't think it's going to go straight up, but it's now forming a inverted head and shoulders on the daily too. I expect it could muddle around here, play around, and I would take any pullback and buy that thing. So here's, Majid, what you may be looking at. So you can see on the daily, you'll say, wow, this looks like a huge double top. And it is. And I did play it for a little while, and I took 300 pips out of this. But, that was then, and this is now. So sometimes you see, well, sometimes, trades come up to the neckline, and then they get punched back. I don't think that this is going to happen. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. But, so I do think, now you have an emerging, head and shoulders, and you could continue just kind of playing around here, building some space, and then you're going to probably go that way. So, we're looking at patterns all the time, and yes, even on the daily. And so on the 15-minute, it even looks more. And so now you're saying, well, here's this clear double top. Now, this is an area where it's kind of peaked up here. And so I can, take it back. So this is why when, you've got to peel back more and more and more and see the forest for the trees. If you're too close to the tree, then you can't see anything else that's around you. So in order to kind of get a true picture, I pull out more and more and more. Go to a weekly chart, go to a monthly chart, go to a 43-year chart. What I don't do is go from a daily chart to a 4-hour chart to a 1-hour chart to a 15-minute chart, and then try and pluck out 7 pips from the next, the next move. So this is a whole kind of different orientation. And again, I'm just looking for setups, let this thing play around. And then I'm looking to take another 500 pips, when it kind of goes and makes a new high. That's kind of my mentality, what I'm looking for in the market. And then sometimes, they just throw you a little bone where I did see this double top. I did tell our members based on a weekly thing to get in at 119.37. So it was somewhere like here. That's somewhere under there was the weekly bar. And then I said my objective was somewhere down here, the support. And you can see we got right here, and I could see it was kind of stopping. So I took out this much out of a counter trend play. It was 200 pips or something. Not bad. But, but I understand the difference between taking a short ride, against the major thing, and then looking for the long ball that way. So with QuantumScape, I was, getting short at 42. My vision is this thing's going to $18, $15. And, I was trying to sell all these shares this morning, and I would have ridden this thing. If I'd been short the shares, I would be in it for weeks and months, waiting for this thing to go, to 20 bucks. Philippe says, would you chase this stock on its way down? Yeah, I don't think it's chasing it. I think it's just going in the direction that this thing's going. So yeah, I would get short. So today it's up in the aftermarkets, and I was looking to get short into the aftermarket. Philippe, thank you for that. Philippe says, great information each day, listening to your analysis. It's like learning a new language. Great teaching overall. Big thank you, and keep up the great work. So Philippe, thank you. And I'm going to give you a link to share your comments. And I would really appreciate if you would do so. So TH says, I'm looking at APPS. It's really bullish in the past year. On the weekly chart, it seems like it's developed a head and shoulders pattern. Would you say this might take a downturn lower? Again, you guys can't look at shorting $3 stocks. Okay, it could go lower, but your whole upside is $3, and your downside is unlimited. So when I look at things, I'm looking at QuantumScape's $40. I'll take it, but I'm shorting a Zoom at $320. And so people say, well, I can't trade that. I don't have enough money. You can do fractional shares. There are brokers that offer you fractional share trading. So please don't bring me any more $3 stocks. Not to short. I would look at buying something, but that's also a gamble. Anything under $5 is called a penny stock. So it's time to short or put a trade on coin. It just came out public yesterday. Probably. Larry says, extremely interesting. I'm a novice. Where do I start? How do I get your books, info, etc.? Larry, I'll put up a link in a moment, how you can get started with me. So come on, guys, give me some trades that you're looking at based on my teachings. Jean says, APHA has developed a head and shoulders. Yeah, it has. Yeah, this is going to go lower. This looks like QuantumScape, APHA. So, it's a $13 stock. A little bit off my radar, but, look, on a risk reward basis, you could probably make, 20, 30, 50% in this thing. Yeah, this thing looks like it's over and going to go lower. So, sometimes I don't even know if you can borrow these stocks. So in order to go short, you need to borrow the stocks. Broker needs to have them. And so not quite sure about the availability of this one. But yeah, but in the main, I think you're on the right track, Jean-Louis. This is done. This told you is done right here, where you see this huge key reversal, made a new high, and then it was done. And then it's kind of created this descending wedge, not really a head and shoulders per se. This is kind of what the dollar yen has been tracking in. It's kind of a descending triangle. And this is what QuantumScape was doing at the lower end of it. So you can see now that we've just closed right. So this was the first close under this low here. First close today. So yeah, I might look into that. Jean-Louis, thanks for bringing that. I'm going to check that out. The fact that it closed under this thing, this looks like QuantumScape looked like yesterday. So this thing looks like it's just going to get detonated. Again, with these lower price stocks, you have to say, this is my risk. And, when you're short, it's, somewhat unlimited. Yes, you can put a stop on your position, but just theoretically. But this does look very good for a trade lower. But that's, what a descending triangle, looks like. So you can see that QuantumScape in the last couple of, after it formed this double top, it also had this kind of descending triangle. And today you've definitely closed under the all-time low. of this triangle. And so it's on its merry way. All right, let me see if there's any other. Yeah, I saw that CNBC report, Kevin. I actually took a picture of it. I was watching it when they were doing that report. So Carson says, I'll buy the Euro Canadian based on the daily and inverted head and shoulders and a key reversal. Yeah, this was kind of like me getting trapped in Euro New Zealand the other day. So it's important to realize what the Euro Canadian has been going up for a long time. It has been in this stealth bull market and probably will go back into it. It's just a tricky trade. So you can see the long-term trend on this thing, is higher. And every time it comes to this lower support line, it supports there. So you can see that there's just a long-term thing where this thing, just grabs a foothold along this trend line. And we may have done another one to send it back in that direction. Again, the one thing I'd say to you, you can see how fast we've come down. So it's not going to go up that hard, which just tells me that there is going to be a lot of kind of this, if it's going to do that. So just something that wouldn't really grab me. This is basically, you can see this is by and large a very range bound pair. And so, there's a few times where it sneaks out of this range. And, if you're not there, then, it goes back into the range forever. So not really a pair that, I like unless I see it just a huge opportunity. So by and large, probably put this on the back burner, even if I thought there was something. So yeah, this is not really an inverted head and shoulders per se. It is, but not enough to, so again, just space this out so it looks a little bit better. Yeah, so this was a major distribution, and here's a great example of a another descending triangle. And so when it broke it, you could take that for a ride. But now, I mean, yeah, you may have a thing up here, but I don't see enough of a bottoming pattern here. Yeah, you could say this is an inverted head and shoulders, but it kind of looks somewhat weak. I don't know. Maybe, maybe. I don't, I don't think so. It's just going to take some time one way or another. See, like gold, did this, and then gold built a huge pattern, underneath this to, create a direction where we could go the other way. So, gold had this whole distribution. Just where for, months and months, I was saying that this thing was going to go lower, and then it hit a huge support area. And now we've kind of grabbed a foothold here. So, like this is kind of unambiguous. So unlike Euro Canadian, where, it's kind of all this weak kind of price action, gold put on this thing, and now, we've cleared and closed above this neckline. It basically, looks like this could be a buy of a century. I mean, I think, the low might be put in with gold. I just, we have to clear all of this thing. I was talking about obstruction. So now, you have to see, is this going to just kind of go through all of this stuff? And it could start moving, and just building, things and moving again. So there is, I don't know. I just, but so these, sometimes you have to decide which is the pattern. So, on one hand, I see a massive kind of distribution here, and now you start seeing accumulation here. I don't know. And then when I'm ambivalent, this is the daily, I kind of toggle back to the weekly, see how that looks, and it's looking pretty strong. I mean, I was actually looking at this area, all the time. I said, look, this thing could go up, but it's going to pull back to the 1700 price level. And we pull back to 1681. You can see right along this, thing, we grabbed another foothold. And so this could be, just the all-time buy of the century here. I did have it on my email 2 days ago to put a 1751 stop in there, a buy stop, and just let the market do all of the work. And now you're at 1763. So now the inevitable question is, can you buy it here? I think you can. It looks like you've grabbed a foothold here, and this weekly action is strong. And now I'm just going to say, can I see it kind of cutting through all of this recent history? And, look, this could be just the buy of the century here. I'll show you an ascending broadening price pattern with the NASDAQ, where it did the same thing. Last March, the NASDAQ grabbed a foothold along an ascending broadening price pattern, and then it went and made a new high. So we could be looking at the same opportunity in gold. I just kind of, when I look at the monthly price action, let me just make sure this is in here. It gets more complicated for me. So, when I put on a trade, I have to see a path. And so, yeah, there could still be some mileage here. And there probably is. But, I kind of look at these, it obviously hit this resistance level. So it was a normal place for it to set back. So this is like the euro, where, the term is, the longer term trend looks now, it's headed higher. And you had this short term kind of counter trend. So maybe this is one of these. So you can see that the same thing, we see the same ascending broadening price pattern on the monthly. And it's just perfect. So now the question is, is it going to do this? Or are we just going to, just get a move here, come back down here and cut through here? So, because the trouble for me is these guys right here. There's these two key reversals here. And they're far away. They're at $2,000. We're at, $250 lower. So there is a lot of room for this to go before it hits that resistance level. So it's probably a short-term buy, and it may be a long-term buy, and it may be the greatest buy of our lifetime, where we came, this was my objective, and now, we could be looking at that, and we probably are. So I would just like to see a little bit more solid kind of, thing here, some backing and filling, maybe one more pullback here before we go. And if it did that, if it came back here and then looked like it, then I would light it up. I would put on, positions for the long term and look for a big move. Right now, I don't know. And maybe I shouldn't be, I should just look at what's happening and accept it. And, and stop trying to pick it apart. Silver for me, again, is, it's not that easy. And this is where you've got to eliminate all of the background noise of everyone telling you gold's going up because inflation's going up and this and that. We saw QuantumScape, where Bill Gates is an investor. Jim Cramer said yesterday it's going up, and today it's down 10%. So, you can't listen. You got to be merciless and completely objective about what you're looking at. So silver is a complicated thing for me because these were the double top. This was also a descending pattern right here. And once it broke there, it went into a 7-year downtrend from $26. It went all the way to $11. And then at the height of the pandemic, it, did this bear trap where it kind of got under all of these prices. And if you, chase this thing, you were trapped under here. So it was a bear trap. And then after it set that trap, it put on this inverted head and shoulders. And I started getting long here along with our members and made 7 figures on this ride up. So, it took 7 years to, give you a trade in this pair. For 7 years, I didn't even look at silver. And this breakout also coincided with this downtrend line that had been in existence for 7 years. So you had the inverted head and shoulders and this downtrend line. And when I saw it coming out of here, this to me was just the opportunity of a lifetime. I just loaded it up and I made 7 figures on that move. So now, you're kind of looking at this resistance here and, saying to yourself, is this going to just go, through all of this clutter and do that? It could. If it holds here and it keeps, and then we see, the next month bar, here, and we stop going down, it's likely to go higher. I just think that it's gonna, give you some fits and starts before it does. But, so this is not really clean. It's just very muddled price action. So can we start grabbing a foothold and going higher? Yeah, but we got to clear through all of this history. So I don't know. I'm still a little bit guarded about these metals. I mean, gold looks classic. When I see this, that looks like a double bottom. It looks classic. So kind of let's see what happens here. Somewhat still skeptical. And I think that it's going to give me a look where, I'll be less ambiguous at some point. To me, it needs to kind of build some price action, build some history to then suggest that it's going to launch to the next stage. David, I don't want you to, and David says, Alibaba, is that going down tomorrow? So I don't want you guys to, asking me a question. I want you to tell me where you think. So Yana says, does Qualcomm have a broadening wedge? So Yana, you got to be more specific. Does that broadening wedge mean that you think it's going to break out on the upside or the downside? Yana, you're a great and loyal. So here's Qualcomm. And so here's, again, some of the quandaries we get into. You see the double top here and you see the double bottom here. And you say, well, okay, what is the tradable price pattern? So when I get into a bit of a quandary, I either peel back for more time on the daily. And this is clearly in an uptrend. And so this obviously was a point where you saw the double top and the market gives you patterns at 167. And you could have traded that all the way down to 120. So it's not just, so that's what I call a counter trend trade, where Qualcomm, gave you a spot that went against the major trend. So when I look at this, I say to myself, okay, what is the phase or the direction of this market? And recently it's gotten more complicated, but really this thing is in a uptrend. And you can see every time it grabs a bite along this uptrend line, it sends it, in a path higher. And, sometimes you get too far from the line, and then you break back to the line. It's quite amazing. And so to me, Yana, what did you say? A broadening wedge? I don't really know what you meant by that. But to me, what I see is kind of like the pattern before Tesla broke out, where you see a double bottom, see this inverted head and shoulders. And, if you're aggressive, you could trade it now. I would likely buy it now. But, if you want to see if this is real, you could wait for this thing to confirm. And if it goes through like 140, it's probably going to dance back in that area again. But this is a great example of how the market throws you different patterns. And you could say, well, this is a double top, and it is. So by implication, a double top means that the market's top. And, sometimes it's top for that period of time to give you a nice trade. Now, I would take that double top because you had both the double top and you had the key reversal price action here. And if you bought my book, you would understand the reversals. Made a new high, close on the low, made a new high, close on the low, right at this double top. So when I see that, I know, so I use these bars as insurance. So I know in this case, it just gapped. But for instance, let's say the next day, this thing, opened higher. And that's what it did with Zoom today. I had a key reversal in Zoom yesterday. It opened higher, and I just shorted against that, feeling that I know where my risk is. So that's my risk, and that's my reward. And, I'll do that all day long. So I look for patterns where I can find the pattern, the price action, and I'll get in early. And even though this was an uptrending thing, it, suggested that there was a reversal. I wouldn't know at the time how much of a reversal, but sometimes the market gives you these gifts. And like I said, I'm not looking to take the whole thing. If I could just take, a piece of the middle out of this, 10, 15 bucks, 15% move, I'll take that every day and Sunday. So now, to me, it appears that this is the bullish price pattern in the direction of the trend. And so, I would think that Qualcomm is a good bet here. So Martin says, I'm looking at the euro yen, very pronounced wide inverted head and shoulders and an upward trend with the bar still contained. So yeah, the yen pairs are giving me fits because on one hand, I think dollar yen is heading back into this downtrend. Now, the problem with this, the dollar yen has been going down every day. And so, I don't like to short something when the energy's been kind of diluted. I want, what I call the rubber band effect, where, you can see that every day it's going down. So, markets just don't, go down, 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 keep going down, down, down. At some point, they pull back. So what I would want to see, and that's why I said, I want to see a little bit more time on dollar yen to see how this is going to play out. I want to see the rubber band being pulled back, like an elastic band when you're about to shoot something out of it. You pull it back and it, builds up this energy so it can release again. So now it's, it's kind of unclear whether we're just building kind of thing to kind of get going again, in this direction. So I think that we're going to go lower, but I wouldn't short it here because, the energy's kind of been diffused. It's been going down, down, down. And so, if you're not there for the wedding, you don't want to be there for the funeral, so I'm not going to short it now. So I just want to see a little bit more history here to figure out what this thing wants to do. So you can see it's kind of pulling back to this uptrend line. And then, ideally I want to see a pattern where we get this double top and then, then it'll be clearer for me. So these yen pairs are still kind of giving me conniptions as to what they want to do. They're in long-term downtrends. They're showing signs that they want to pull out of that thing. And actually, euro yen now is just showing a lot of resistance, where if something kind of bumps up against something and can't push through, there's a chance that it could go the other way. And so I'm a little bit hesitant. I'm long with one eye open on dollar yen. I had a buy stop this week on the weekly trade at 130.87. It did not get triggered. That's the beauty of the buy stop. And so, on the I told you that, this is a moment of truth. I put up the monthly chart, I put up the weekly chart. The resistance on the monthly chart comes in right here at about 132. So right about where the euro yen is trading now. We've got a long-term trend line coming in addition to which you have this kind of double top that has been governing the price action. And now I'm saying to myself, are things changing? Are we starting to shift, or are we just going to hit this trend line and go back into the trend? And I think there's a huge chance of that. And so the more that this kind of stalls out here, so you can see this is a weekly inside week bar. Now you could read it both ways. This is kind of, just building energy. It's coiling, and then it could uncoil in one direction or another. And so I'm a little bit uptight that this thing could go back, into the trend here. So in a way, this is a bit of a, top. I don't know. I mean, the energy still hasn't been broken. You can see that this has been in a huge uptrend. You could still pull back here and still keep going. So I, haven't pulled the trigger on these yen pairs yet, but so Martin says, your book is highly complimented by these live trading webinars. It's a great combination. One without the other wouldn't make it. I'm not ready for the elite, but you sent an email that we could take me on different conditions, blah, blah, blah. So we have other things that you could get involved with, Martin. To get more reinforcement, the Master Pattern Trader, which I do tomorrow, every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern time, or I do weekly emails, Martin. So there's a number of things that you could check into if you're like so HA says FCX on the monthly chart looks like a W. It's touched 39. Looks like it's going to break upwards. Is that 3-point McNaran? So yeah, this is a huge uptrend. It's bumping up against this 39 resistance, but likely to go higher. So yeah, this is really a, is this 3-point McNaran? Yeah, it is. 3-point McNaran. Yeah. Yeah, so I think long-term, these commodity plays, it looks like, inflation, the cat's out of the bag. And so, if you are a long-term investor or looking to put your quiet money away, I would look for plays like this. You probably can get a dividend on this, it probably gives you a small yield because the price has shot up. But yeah, this is definitely something that I would put on for long-term. Daniel says, I'm looking for a pound New Zealand to buy it at 190 neckline after a double bottom. So, pound New Zealand just went and got a whole lot more complicated. It came off a lot more than I thought it would. And now I'm saying to myself, would I short it here? And then I got to see my way, short for all this clutter. So yeah, it could drop. And then there's a lot of support right here at these lows right there, 188 and then 189. So I don't see it just cutting through that. So, maybe there's another 200, free ride on this thing on the way down. I kind of just broke even on the trades that I put in. I put on some early trades at 193, and then I added at the top thinking that trade would continue, and it came back in my face, and oh well, I'll just move on to the next one. So FNGU. It's an ETF. Yeah, I don't know about that. Is that history real? These ETFs get rebalanced. So yeah, I would not touch something like this, Kevin. Look for something with, reasonable price history. I'm not going to look at just ticker symbols. What I'm trying to do on this exercise is I want you guys to think. If you've attended for the last 3-4 days, I want to see what you've taken out. If this thing, if you think that you can incorporate this thing, and I just want to see what kind of feedback you're getting. So I know I talk a lot and I show you a lot of things, but I'm not quite sure what is being digested. And, so I just want to see, and again, there's no right or wrong. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. I was wrong about pound New Zealand dollar this week. I was wrong about euro New Zealand dollar this week. Who cares? I was right about QuantumScape, lift, work, and, other things that, made me far more than I lost. And so that's really the thing here. So people will call me, they'll sign up, they'll get a few bad trades and go, this guy's just garbage. And a week later, I'll go and make, $500,000 on something. So I know this isn't for everybody, but I want to see. So Rinkamek on YouTube says there's a nice head and shoulders on JMIA that hasn't triggered yet. JMIA. Yeah, that does look good. Yeah, again, kind of a rounding top, head and shoulders. And so it's building more and more. Again, I look for stocks to, the closer it is to zeros, that's how much you can make. But you can, if this thing goes $3, $4, $5 down, you can, make a big percentage bet. So I'm not ruling this out. And I think the analysis is correct. So you have just a combination of patterns here where you have this rounding top, you have this head and shoulders, and it's just sitting on the same ledge that QuantumScape was just before it got triggered. So under that neckline, there's, nothing but air under here. So yeah, I think it's a really good one, Rick. I'm just going to jot that down. Jemiah. So there's 10,000 symbols out there, and it kind of drives you crazy. And you can see there's another rounding top here. And then you also have kind of this descending triangle to boot. So you've got kind of every pattern. And once this thing gets triggered, as you say, Rick, it's, a good night. So here's the same descending wedge. So descending wedges, they can be deceptive. The dollar yen is kind of in this thing. And so these can be, kind of neutral patterns. And the way I've learned to kind of segment them, so, these descending wedges, they can trap you. Is the way I look at it is how many times it kind of touches down here. And the more time it revisits here, the less chance that it's going to go that way. So, this really has a look that this is a reversal price pattern. So you can see the price history leading up into it was going higher. And by definition, a reversal means that it's going to go lower. And so I've learned the distinction. And again, this is 40 years of experience that I bring to this thing where I made all the mistakes where sometimes I'd see these descending triangles and I'd look like one, and then it wouldn't quite make it to the lower end. It would just kind of do this, and down this, it would look like, okay, here we go. And then it would, and then when it comes out here, it actually turns into a continuation pattern. So this one looks like it's done enough touches that this thing is done. In fact, we can check and see maybe there's an option play here. Sometimes these options aren't real liquid. Yeah, these seem to have some liquidity. So I'm going to look about a week forward. So it's trading at $34. So you got to say these $33 are trading at $1. You can see the open interest is not very high, but I would, still play around with something like this. So this is like a put that I would look at buying. It's trading at 34. It triggers that thing. It could be like a QuantumScape where it goes from 34 to 30 in a quick burst. And so you could get 3 to 5 times your money on something like that. So I might play around with that. So thanks for bringing that to my attention. And so that's an example where you see an opportunity coming. And when I see an opportunity and I think that the timing is right, that something's going to happen, then, I'll either short the stock or actually add some more leverage, by buying these derivatives, these put options. And you saw in the case of QuantumScape today, I made 550%, and I was losing 50% of my money 2 days ago. I went from losing 50% to making 550% of my money in a 2-day space of time. So, you know, it's a bit of a rush with these options, but you got to be prepared to lose everything that you put up. I mean, I could have gotten out 50% down. And so that's why you need these option bets to play out, because if I get out, I'm down 50%, I've lost 50% of that, you know, and then I could lose all of it on another bet. So that's why, I get these 700% moves that take that, you just need a couple of those to take care of the losers along the way. And that's what trading is. It's not about, not losing. It's about making the quality of your winners a lot bigger than your losers. And if you're trading in and out every day for the same outcome, I mean, if you're looking for 15 pips on every move, then it's kind of like, playing blackjack, where you put your, whatever, you put your chip down, you put $25 down, you win $25 or you lose $25. But you're just eventually going to bleed to death. You're just going to lose. So my mind, and that's why I don't gamble, because it's stupid to me. I put down a $25 chip. I make $25. If I win and I lose 25, I can't limit my risk, and I can't make my upside worth more. So if I could win, obviously if you hit aces and you hit, blackjack, you get it 3 times whatever. But so that's why, trading for one-to-one outcomes, trading in and out for small outcomes, you're just going to slowly bleed to death. If you don't find, a QuantumScape that moves from 42 to 35, and it's going to go to 30 and 25. If you don't have those wins, to make up for all of these little losers like Euro New Zealand and, all of this other stuff, then, you can't make it out to the other end. So let me see if there's any other trades sorry, you guys, some of you may think I've got so many trades that come through. So come on, guys, give me some trades that you're looking at and why. So, first off, let me ask you, did you guys get any value out of the last 4 days? Do you see how this you might incorporate this kind of thinking and methodology into do you think that you could see this helping you to be more of a consistent, bigger winner in the markets? So I'd like some of your feedback, because, I've been talking for 4 days, and now I'd like to kind of see, what. So Jay-Z's, before I met you, I was being bombarded with all different kinds of indicators. Your methodologies of the idea of a naked chart is a breath of fresh air. Awesome approach, great teaching, great analysis. Thank you, Mark. Much appreciated. So Jay-Z, I would appreciate if you would share your thoughts. A lot of people say different things all the time. And so, I like others to give, other traders an idea of, what you took out of this. So I'm going to put a link in YouTube, and so Jay-Z, I'd really appreciate if you would, put your comments in there. One says, sounds great. How does the elite program versus the accelerator? So the elite is the highest thing of what I offer. It's a daily email. Like yesterday, I sent you an email on QuantumScape. The day before was an email on gold, going long. So you get a daily email from me, which reinforces your learning curve. The accelerator is once a week. So it includes kind of my wrap up of the markets, what I'm thinking, and, the trades for the week. But if you want the daily trades, it will really reinforce your education. So Daniel says, I'm getting more I'm getting more bigger time frames in my thinking, and it's a big advantage. Of course it is. You're seeing the forest for the trees. When you look at a 15-minute chart, you're looking at a random bet. So Kevin says Zscaler is ZS. Looks like it's trying to break higher. So again, whenever I kind of, looking at something, I want to see the longer time frame. So yeah, this does look like it's moving back in the direction of the trend. It was kind of like Qualcomm, where a lot of these things, broke back to the long-term trend line and then found, a second life. And that's what's happening here. But some are not, like Zoom, maybe Tesla, maybe some other things are going down. So this is a market of stocks. It's not a stock market. So, there's a lot of stocks I like higher. There's a lot of stocks I like lower, like QuantumScape. And so, just because the indexes are doing one thing or another, you kind of have to, and that increasingly going forward, guys, is that it's going to be a lot harder work. The market's gone straight up for a year, and it's not going to do that anymore. It's going to get a lot more complicated. So it's going to be a stock pickers market. It's not going to be like a rising tide raises all ships. So you can see how ZS has just kind of grabbed a foothold, along this long-term. I don't want to do that. And also the price action. So you can see that this is an uptrend line. So now you just want to get in sync with the trend. And so you just look for, ways to do that where you can understand the risk reward. And here was your key reversal. It was a weekly, made a new low, closed on the high of the week, right in the same area, this double bottom low. So now this tells me that this is likely to go higher. You kind of cleared this neckline, and it looks like you're going to go unperturbed until you hit those resistance highs again. So it looks like there's some white space for this thing to get going again. So, kind of any pullback here, I would probably look to buy that. And then I would watch this uptrend line because, anytime you see a pullback and it starts, moving through it, that could be an opening for, a move lower. So yeah, Kevin, good call there. So James says, very educational. So James, I would really appreciate if you would put whatever your thoughts are, and share those with other people. So Daniel says, EU is building the right shoulder. I'm looking for a short around 120. I thought we went into the euro. Again, I'm not, the be all and end all. I look at a certain thing, and the thing is, when something doesn't go according to my analysis, I'll just go the other way. At some point, I'll just chuck it in. So I think what, Daniel is saying is, and I can understand what you're thinking here, but I don't think it's going to happen. So you're saying that this could be a head and shoulders. So it could be a double top, and then we could be looking like something like that. It's very possible, but let's see. I mean, if we started looking like that, I would say you're right. But right now, I think that the long-term trend, first off, if I look at the dollar index, it looks like it's topped out. So if something's made a top, it's going to go lower. And when the dollar moves in certain waves, it moves that way for 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years. So we're just, a year into this dollar down move. And I think we've got another 2 or 3 or 5 years. So this, I think this to me, so once, you see one pattern, it's very unlikely you'll see the other, but it could happen. So you saw it in this time frame here. Here's your head and shoulders. So when this was here, this was still in a downtrend. And once this then I said to our members, we're going to go lower out of here from 115, and we went down to 105. But that was then, and this is now. And so now I think that, this is the new sheriff in town, the new dominating pattern. this, inverted head and shoulders. So this was just kind of a pullback that was the elastic band. So that was kind of what I was saying with the dollar yen. You want to see a pullback before it releases again. Now, these are troublesome for me. These kind of key reversals, I don't see this thing just kind of going through there. So Daniel, we'll wait and see. I think you can keep your powder dry. I don't think there's any rush to buy this or sell this right now. And euro is kind of these things that, these tends to go into more of a trading range. So if I'm looking to go short the dollar, I kind of look at the Australian versus the US dollar to go long. But I do think that we'll eventually find a way here. But I also said that on pound New Zealand this week, and it turned around. So who knows? We're definitely in this, huge trading range, and it could, back and fill. And I suspect it will. I think you're just going to see a lot of this, for a while. So Dan says the fundamentals in Europe can be even worse than Biden's US. That possibly could be. So, I don't look at fundamentals. I only look at price action. And if the fundamentals, if next week, I start seeing a couple of these, then I'll know to take it the other way. So to me, price tells me everything. And right now I'm telling you, it's kind of in a no man's land where it's, I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't sell it. So, you also have to say, okay, I'm going to get short here. So then can you picture this? I really can't. Markets need to build a pattern in order to fall. So, this thing went up and it needed to build this pattern, this sideways pattern before it could fall. Markets just don't come out of nowhere and just go like this. So, if next week I kind of see one of these, then, I can maybe make a case for that. So that's why sometimes, if you're ambivalent, ambiguous, just let some time go by. Yesterday, I had unquestionable conviction about QuantumScape. So, trades that I'm ambiguous about, I'll just put them on the calendar and, keep looking at them and try and find things like QuantumScape where it's ready right now, where it's fully cooked, ready to go to the next thing. And that's what I'm looking for. Like Lyft. Lyft has some little trouble in this area, but it's going to lift out of this thing. Work. WRK. It's starting to grind its way higher through all of this nonsense here. So you can see it's just, every weekly just hanging out here. And the more it bumps up against this resistance, eventually it's just going to take that out. So I was talking about that all week too. It hasn't done anything, but talk to me a month from now when this thing's at $65, $75. So Juan, I give a mix of everything in the elite program. 2 days ago, I said buy gold, buy Lyft, sell QuantumScape, long the euro yen, kind of, on squishy ground there. Frankly, I would just get out of the euro yen right now and just see what that thing looks like. So yeah, it's the elite is a mix of everything. Juan, but thank you for asking. So Joyce says, I want to join the elite program, but I don't feel like I know enough. So I don't know if you're saying about your own knowledge, or if you don't know enough about, me and the program. So Joy, if you sign up, for the link for the elite, which I'll put up here, I don't know if it's still active. You don't just buy something you don't know anything about. In fact, you can't do that. There's nowhere where you can do that. One of our team members will call you and walk you through everything so that you understand all of the parameters. And then if it's a question of you don't think you're confident enough where your trading knowledge is, that's the whole purpose of the elite program. So to me, it's for experienced traders as well as newbies. And so, in fact, the less you know, probably the better, because the more you know, it operates in the background. So to me, that's what, why I started the Pattern Trader, is really to educate people on how to make money in the markets. Not listening to Kramer, not listening to CNBC, not, looking at newsletters. The market is ahead of the thing, so you can't learn anything. Kramer's, is a guy from Goldman Sachs. He's a wealthy dude. He looks at everything very fundamentally. But, I don't really watch him much, but everything he said about this company to buy, that company to buy, and then I'm looking at the chart behind him and I'm going, I'm going to short that tomorrow. So the markets are counterintuitive. You have to kind of wipe the slate clean and just look at price information. And I think I've showed you this week, looking at Lyft, looking at WRK, looking at QuantumScape. I've made, a small fortune, in these things, not knowing anything about any of them. I don't know what the fundamental analysis of Europe is. I don't know what the balance sheet of QuantumScape is. The price is telling me what to do. And if I'm wrong, then I set up my trade with a, legitimate risk reward, kind of thing, where I can set up a trade, understand the pattern. And then if you're wrong, like Euro New Zealand, you get out with a 0.5% risk and you move on. So if every trade you do is, 0.5 to 1%, and you know what you're doing, and you get moves that move from one level to the other, that's how you make money in the markets. You don't make money trading in and out on a 15-minute chart. So you can see this has kind of got this ascending triangle here, which is, it can, do either way. It could break out and come back here. It's somewhat of a neutral pattern, but this is a pattern that's showing up in a long-term bull trend. And on the weekly, which I've showed you all week, you've got a double bottom, inverted head and shoulders, which suggests that the trajectory of this thing is going to go higher. So once I know the phase of the market, this is an up market, here's my pattern, and here's my coil. You have two inside day bars where effectively the range of the last 2 days sits within the range yesterday. So you've got this coil, and the more something coils and builds energy, guess what? It's just going to spring out of here. And so, if you put a buy stop in WRK, over today's high, whatever it is, 54.20 or something like that, and you put your sell stop, somewhere down here, or your stop loss, and set up, some kind of risk reward matrix where you say, okay, I'm going to risk $3-4, and frankly, it looks like the risk is, being washed out of this thing. It's like I said to, yesterday, I saw there was like no risk in QuantumScape. And frankly, it looks like there's very little risk here if you get long now. Kind of looks like you got this rounding bottom and it's ready to go. But, some things don't happen. So you create this risk reward where you risk, $3. You make that equate to, 1% of your account. So if you have a $10,000 account, if you lose $3, you make it equate to $100. So you buy 35 shares. And guess what? You've lost $100 of your 10,000. I promise you live to fight another day, and you'll find the next trade. And then basically, if you're right, then I look to add to my trade. So the more this thing gets going, and I see some kind of key reversal, inside bar, whatever, then I'm adding here. And I'm adding more and more. And then by the time this thing's at $75, you've taken your 10 grand to, 13 grand. And that's how, I look to make consistent money and big money. Not trying to, buy and sell this thing 25 cents or 50 cents or $1, 15 times a day. Daniel, so Mario says, is the Elite program a yearly subscription? Yes, it is, Marios. But, call our team members and they'll tell you everything about it. So Juan says, I've never traded stocks, just Forex, so it's hard to start out. I, trade Forex, all day long. It's just the Forex market has not been as buoyant, as the others. And that's why I haven't talked about it. If there was something going on that I thought, wow, this is ready to go, I would be all jacked up about it. And the yen trades, Juan, are coming close, to being the QuantumScape or the lifts or something where there is going to be a big move. So Daniel says, do you ever look at volume? No, I don't. I'll put the link in just a moment, Larry, of the Elite. Some of you are saying I want the link. Perry says, thanks, Mark. I learned something every session. Your trading mindset is very helpful. So Perry, if you would be kind enough to, share your thoughts, on our link, I would really appreciate it. So Daniel, the price of the Elite program is not listed. Thanks, Mustafa. John, I'm not really going to go into that. Buy to open is where you go, naked, and sell is when you write something. It's a different thing, but I'm not going to. All right. So Irene, thank you very much for your thing. Again, if you guys could put your thoughts in, let me just put that link again. I would really appreciate it. It helps me, kind of understand the value you got. Also, in your comments, if you'd like to embellish it, tell me what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, what you took away, if it really enhanced your thinking. Because again, I don't know what you guys are taking away. So much of this lives in my own head. I've been doing this for so long now that I can just look at something and so many things, compute through my brain. And I think that's what I try and share in the Elite program, where over time, hopefully you'll understand. And so, it's just effortless now. And, I've kind of gotten to a consciousness where I don't think of the markets in terms of money I made or lost. Today I made about 150 grand. And, I remember when I was in my 20s and I'd make 2 grand in my account or 5 grand. I get so excited about the money, because I thought, well, now it grow, makes me grow the. And now I've kind of just learned to think about the markets, in a very pure sense. I just look at the trade setup. So if I'm wrong, I just dump out of the trade, and, just dump those losses. Don't worry about it. And then I'm just looking for the next move, the next QuantumScape. And it's the same thing with the, the wins. I have these gargantuan wins, and it's amazing. The money doesn't really even resonate. It's just like, okay, I made, I was successful, and it's more of a gratification. It's more of the purity. When I saw that NASDAQ play a couple months ago, where the NASDAQ dropped 15%, I made a whole bunch of money on that. It was kind of just the satisfaction of seeing something, and then it happened. And so the money, next, I just look to the next move. So I just look at the markets in terms of the setups and risk reward. So it's a constant calculation. Is this setup look like it's going to translate into a move that, warrants my attention, or, not? And then if it is, then, okay, what's the risk? And like this WRK, I don't know what the reward's going to be, when it's going to come. It's going to come. And the risk now looks like it's increasingly diminishing. So that's what it's all about. Risk and reward calculation. Almost no risk for a huge reward. So to me, this is just a no-brainer. Jay-Z says, your comment is so profound. Your consciousness transcended beyond money. You are in a good place. All the best to you. So thank you, Jay-Z. It took me kind of a long time to get here. And it's just so, I just think to myself, why does it take so long to learn, just such simple concepts about so many things? And that's what it really is. It's like, I think the more you think about the thing you want, the harder things. Whereas if you do the right things, every day in your business, in whatever you do, if you're doing whatever you're doing well, it will come. But if you think about the success every day, if you think about, well, if I start my business, I'm going to make $1 million tomorrow. And so yeah, it's taken me a long time to get here. And if I could share that with people, that's what gives me the that's why I started the Pattern Trader. Believe me, I make far more in my trading account than I make in this business. I do this business because I enjoy trading ideas and meeting people from all over the world like you guys. So Courtney, thank you. So Zoila says, I love your trading strategies. I think things come to you out of the experience and something that can't be taught. I appreciate your teaching so much. I would love to join you, but as a newbie, it'd be kind of intimidating. Well, I appreciate that. To some people, it may seem so overwhelming. And the way I would counter, and it may sound self-serving, is, what is the value of information? So people say, if I have to pay $5,000 for the elite program, which that's what it is, but we will work with you and we'll work around that and we'll work around, we help you. If I put $5,000 in and then now I've got only $1,000 to trade, why would I do that? And, what I would say is, what is the value of information? So a couple of years ago, so 5-6 years ago, right when I started the Pattern Trader, actually, I don't know, this chart setup and the way it played out stayed in my mind for a long time, and it still does. And I think that's the value of the elite program. And again, sounds self-serving, but if you get these charts every day, and you see what happens and how the thinking is, even on the losers, and to me, I learn more from my losers than the winners, over time it builds up. And so I'll give you an idea. This was 5 years ago in 2015. Yeah, so here was 2014. It was 2015. So this was like, in mid-year 2015. So September was when I started the Pattern Trader, 2015, 5 years ago. This was one of the first trades that I put out, and I was like bang on this trade. I saw this key reversal right at the top of this reverse triangle and actually predicted exactly where this thing would go. I measured the top of the triangle to the bottom, and I said, this is going to go to 3,900. I kid you not, this went to 3,902. I blew my own mind because I put exactly where this thing was going to fall to. And I said, when it fell to this thing, it's going to make a bottom and then go make a new high. And that's exactly what it did. So you can see it fell out of here, made this low, made a double bottom, and then went to, and this is the NASDAQ. So at that time it was 4,700 and now it's 14,000. So it obviously went to a new high. But it was this pattern that was frozen in my brain. And then when I saw the same thing setting up in this, yeah, sorry, I've got these things out of order. This stock, I just loaded it up. Here was the same pattern. You had the reverse triangle, hit 195, fell out of bed, hit 150, made the double bottom, and it went and made a new high. But right when it was down here, I was saying to myself, this is the same thing that I just saw on the NASDAQ, and this was 3 years later. In fact, I was having a lunch with a buddy of mine, and he was saying, Facebook looks like it's over. Mark Zuckerberg was being, hauled in front of Congress to, talk about, why he was manipulating the market, and it looked terrible. And he says, what do you think about Facebook? It looks terrible. I said, it's going to go and make a new high. And he thought I was like, drunk. So right there, I was on my way home. I can remember this like yesterday. I said, if I'm so convinced about this thing, I have to do this trade. So I came home and bought the stock right here and, made whatever, 6 figures on the stock. And then it curled around and, made this new low, and this made this key reversal. So I had the double bottom, the key reversal, this reverse, and I said, this is going to go make a new high. And so I put on a huge bet on these far out of the money calls. So at the time, Facebook was trading at 160, and I was buying these 185 calls for 30 cents, but they were, $65 out of the money. And I had like 3 weeks to do it. And I thought, even if it didn't get there, I thought I'd have enough of a move to give those options a scare. So 30 cents might go to 90 cents. It might go to $1.20. I might get some move out of it. You can see that this thing went into the money, and it went from 30 cents to $4.50, 15 times what I paid for it. And I also bought the 180s, the 182 and a halves, and, made, $500,000 on that move. 100,000 in the stock, 350,000 in the options. But my point is that was all based on remembering a chart pattern that occurred 5 years ago. So to my mind, even if you're a beginner, what if you learned the cadence? What if you saw this and built up your money so that 3 years from now you can say, wow, I remember back 3 years ago, I saw this, and when that happened, this will happen. What is the value of that education? So it's taken me 40 years to be able to make 150 grand in a day. It didn't just drop out of the sky. I had to accumulate that knowledge. So, again, I'm not trying to convince you to sign up or not sign up. It's, my life will continue. I'll keep trading and whatever. But I set this up to be able to, help you overcome all of the nonsense out there and see how the market really works. So Zoila says, I do not doubt the value. Just as a beginner, I think it would be hard to get in your circle. Am I wrong? I don't know what getting in my circle means. I mean, you would get my analysis every day. So you would get this, Zoila, where I told you to buy Lyft at 45 bucks and now it's at $66. This is what my daily email looks like, where I show you the chart pattern. I show you the setup. I give you the risk, and I tell you why. So if you gave me your money and I just, did these things for you, there'd be very little value in that. But if you see what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and what the rationale is, and I try and explain why I'm doing what I'm doing based on my perception. So that is the value, or I think it is. That's what I try and construe. I mean, this was, the email last night on QuantumScape, when it was trading at $41, and now it's trading at 35. So, if you saw enough of these patterns, it doesn't matter what you're trading. You could see this pattern in the euro yen one day, in corn, or whatever you're trading. It doesn't matter. To me, I'll trade any pattern, on any financial instrument. So Romero says, your strategy and analysis is just superb and well ahead of so many so-called gurus on the market. It's been a real eye-opener. Romero, I would really appreciate if you could just copy that and put that on our share website. It's an awesome comment, and I'd really appreciate it. So Raj says, that's the magic of thinking bigger. It really is. It's like, I think as human beings, we think in terms of limitations. I don't know why. I think there's so many people on the earth, and I think through religion and education, everybody is forced to conform somehow, and it seeps into our thinking. And it's, these mindsets that I realize that I'm a hostage to, that you have to break certain barriers, and then it becomes limitless. And now I deal in numbers that are just stupid, where I can dump 100 grand in a day, 80 grand in a day. And it's like, if I, had to think about that and say, what could that do for my kid, the education, I could do something, it becomes mind boggling. But I don't think in terms of the money anymore. It's like the money will come if you do the right things. And, and then sometimes, you have losing streaks, you have losing days, and, I dump a lot of money. And if I had to sit down and think about that, I get so depressed and wound up. But to me, it's just, okay, that was then, it's just, what's the next setup? I'm always looking like a shark in the water, looking for that new setup that can, really take me. And sometimes the markets go into different phases where, it's not there. But that's the thing. If you look at enough markets, FX, gold, stocks, there's always a bull market, even if you want to sell short something. All right, guys, I'm going to, love and leave you there. I want to thank you for hanging out. Oh, I did promise to put that link back up. See if it's still there. Yeah, it is. So if you're like to join my elite program, I'll put the link in. So Kenny says on YouTube, is this for someone who has no experience? Kenny, it's especially for people who have no experience. It's actually better because you come in uncluttered. And so when you come in and you're used to using Bollinger Bands or volume or this or that, and it may be a different mindset. So this is meant for beginners as well as experienced traders. Yes, Brendan, you're wrong about that price. But we will help you. Our team will help you. If it's a financial thing, don't let, so somebody just said something about DraftKings, and you know what? I was looking at that chart. So you're saying, wait a minute, off the daily chart and a massive sell-off after. So to me, I was looking at DraftKings, DKNG, Tommy, and to me, this is something that I want to short. And I thought you said earnings came out and I missed it already because I was looking at that a couple of days ago. So this is the DraftKings. It's the gaming thing. Everybody's been caught up in it. But to me, this is, starting to look like, we have a top building here. And so we're not too far away from breaking through this support, which to my mind would send this thing lower. So I'm actually looking at shorting this thing. And I thought, so you can see we're sitting right on this trend line. But unlike so many stocks that have bounced off this trend line, this thing looks like it's going to, come through this trend line. So Tommy, I think you kind of gave me a start because I thought I missed it because this is something that I want to short and I thought I missed the boat. All right, guys, I can talk forever, as you can tell. I'm going to love and leave you here. Thanks a ton. I hope you got some great value. I'd love you to share whatever comments you had, good or bad, on the share website. And I will, Esther says, thank you for your selflessness and sacrifice. Content throughout the 4 days is priceless, relevant, and outstanding. Again, I would really appreciate if you would share that with others, Esther. There's a lot of stuff, out there, people call me all kinds of things. You should also be aware that there are a couple of websites that make up all kinds of, bad things about me. I'm a criminal. I went to jail, on and on and on. But if you look, what they're doing is they call themselves the pattern trader something. So you think it's affiliated with me. So it gets you to go there. And so what they do is they draft my traffic. They take all of the people who are interested in me. Then people go to that link thinking it's me. Then they read all of this horrible stuff about me. And then what they're really trying to do is sell you their expert advisors or their garbage, Forex teachings. And so the more that I can counter that message, if you would share that information on our public website, I would be so grateful. So I try to give you a lot. If you would give me some back, I would appreciate it. John, thank you. Bibi, thank you. Benjamin, thank you. Marius, really appreciate that comment. So guys, thanks a ton. I love getting together. We'll be doing these things, on an ongoing basis. So, check it out. And I'll see you next time.